Dear friends, dear participants of this ISSSE-SE Education in Human Values Program, online course 1. Good morning and welcome to session 2. My name is Elena Rodríguez. I am from Spain. I live in Madrid, and I am a member of the coordinating committee of this inspiring event. I will be your facilitator for today's session. We are very happy to see that the course has raised a truly felt interest in people who live in 16 European countries and also in 6 faraway countries from the other 4 continents. 138 participants from 22 countries attended session 1. And also a big number of participants are here today for session 2. A very warm welcome to all of you. Before introducing you to today's speakers, I would like to remind you about a few housekeeping rules which will help us offer you a smooth, ongoing program. To ensure high call quality and avoid interruption, please keep your microphones always muted. And please keep the video camera turned off as well, unless you are asked to turn it on. Time will be dedicated to questions and answers at the end of the presentation. Please take note of your questions during the presentation, so that when the presentation finishes, you will be able to share them in the chat box or by raising your hand. If you share a question in the chat box which is not answered due to time limit, we will take care of sending you the answer by email before the next session. All comments and questions are, of course, welcome in our email address, even after the end of this session. Please remember that the recordings of the presentations are going to be available for those who would like to go through them again. The workshops will not be recorded. For those of you whose aim is to receive the certificate for course 1, attendance is mandatory. I would now like to give you a brief overview of the program for session 2 today. The session has 2 parts. In the first part, Raksha Mahtani is going to present the interrelation of the 5 human values and the value of love. After the presentation, we will have 10 minutes for questions and answers. Remember to keep your questions prepared for this period of time. Then there will be a short break of 5 minutes. The second part of the session will begin at about 11:05 and will go on till 12. In the second part, Verica Sekulic will guide a workshop on the value of love. And during the workshop, we are going to have 15 minutes for small group discussion in separate breakout rooms. It is now my honor to introduce you to our first speaker for today's session, Raksha Mahtani. Raksha graduated in Economics and Management through the London School of Economics University. Continued her postgraduate studies by receiving a 1-year grant and doctoral training in quantitative methods, economics, and business at the Carlos III University of Madrid, whilst assisting with teaching statistics and econometrics to first-year university students for 1 year. Raksha has been a teacher training and faculty member of the Institute of ISSSE Education of South Europe since the year 2009, and has participated in ISSSE Education in Human Values training programs conducted in Spain, as well as other European countries. She has worked in the field of education for more than 15 years, with experience at all educational levels, including formal and non-formal contexts. Raksha is passionate about education in human values and has dedicated most of her professional life to implement an educational model that promotes human excellence, inspired by and based on the philosophy and methodology of ISSSE Educare. Currently, she works in the British International School Green Valley School in Palma de Mallorca, Spain, where she teaches weekly human values lessons to all the primary and secondary students. She is also the Education in Human Values and Character Building Director at the school, taking care of the social and emotional well-being of every child. So it is my honor to welcome now our dear Raksha Mahtani, and I invite you to listen to the interrelation of the 5 human values and the value of love. Good morning, dear Raksha.
Good morning, dear Elena. Thank you so much for such a beautiful and warm welcome. It's again a real honor to be here today, to be able to share this second session of this online course of the Institute of Satisai Education in South Europe. Truly, it is really an opportunity for each one of us to dive deeper within ourselves. So especially today, we're going to be talking about the value of love, which is something very, very dear to me, I must say, because through this whole course, through this whole training, which I went through myself when I started back in 2007, learning a bit more about the program. For me, it was so inspiring to learn about all the different human values, but I could clearly see how the founder of the program, Satyasai, why he placed so much emphasis on the value of love and described it as the undercurrent of all the other human values. So as we can see on this beautiful image, we can see, I think this picture very beautifully depicts the value of love. And it is a word we talk about very much. It's a concept that we use a lot. But the most important thing is in this whole observational process, in this beautiful program, which is an educational program, which at the end, its main objective is our own self-transformation and growth. Today, we will dive deeper within this beautiful value of love. And I would like to just share with you an overview of what we will be covering today. So we will firstly begin by talking about the 5 universal human values and their interrelationship. We already saw a little bit about this the other day in our first session, but it would be really nice just to remind ourselves how and why is love the undercurrent of all these human values. We will also look into the nature of love and its characteristics. So exactly, when we talk about the word nature, we will have a moment to dive deeper within what we mean by the nature of love, the nature of every human being, and the different characteristics to help us understand and become more aware of this love. And of course, most importantly, because this whole educational program is based on educare, and it's about bringing out, like we saw the other day with the 2 different Latin roots, it's about really putting into practice and manifesting and practicing in our lives, like we said, these human values. So how can we practice this value of love? So after having gone through this brief overview of what we will be covering over the next few minutes, a question that we can ask ourselves at this point is, what is our true nature? I'm sure many of us, most of us, would have asked ourselves this question, or maybe more than once actually, at different points of our lives. I mean, who are we? What is my true nature? My true nature. And I think it's important first, maybe we can define what we mean by the word nature. So the dictionary actually defines the word nature as the basic or inherent features, character, or qualities of something. So these beautiful words here, inherent, so something within, features, character, qualities of something. So if we're talking about human beings ourselves as human beings, what is our true nature? What are these inherent features, this character or qualities that define us as human beings? What is it? What is the most important characteristic of every human being? This is a question that I think it's very beautiful to have this self-introspection process and to ask ourselves what we really believe, each one of us, what we truly believe is our nature. So the founder of this program tells us that actually our very nature is love, that we are embodiments of love. And this will take us now to recall and remember the connection and the interrelation that love has with all the other human values, and especially focusing on in this program, we talk about 5 universal human values. So we will see how love is connected to these other 4 universal human values, which we will be talking about throughout the course. So ISSE-SE says that love in words and thoughts is truth. That is to say that when we practice and put love in our words, when we think with love, what is manifested is truth. He also says that love in action is righteousness. So when we act with love, when our deeds are based on love, they in turn, the result is righteousness, right conduct. And he also continues saying that love in feelings is peace. And I'm sure we all experience this too, when we feel peace in our hearts, when we feel serenity, what it brings is peace, that feeling of inner peace, which we will also dive deep into all of these values as we move along this beautiful human values program. And he also says that love and understanding is non-violence. So when we understand with love, when we tolerate, when we accept things with love, our attitude in life, our thoughts, our words result in non-violence as well. So like I said, this is just a brief overview of the interrelation between love and the other values we will be talking about. But throughout the whole course, when we talk more about each one of them, I'm sure we will develop a better understanding as well of each one of these human values. So this brings us to the most important question for today. What is love? We're talking about love. We're thinking about love. Love is the undercurrent of all these human values. But what exactly is love? Because again, we speak about love so much, where, it's a concept that we use so much, but we know it's not just a concept, it's an experience, it's something practical. And for me, it was very illuminating, I can say, or inspiring as well, to discover to dive deeper. I keep saying this expression of diving deeper, but it truly, I feel this program provides us with this opportunity to go deep within ourselves, to really get a better understanding of who we truly are, which is the ultimate purpose of ISSE-SE Educare. So what is love? We many times, and mostly when we talk about love, we know that it's very connected to our heart. When we think about love, when we speak about love, the direct connection is with our heart. I also shared with you the other day that when I asked the children in school, remember when we were talking about the roots for the tree, how important they are, and when I also asked the children, is there anything in every human being that we may not see with our eyes, but that is truly very important? And they immediately say, oh yes, Ms. Raksha, of course, the heart. And when I ask them, and why is this heart so important? The relationship and the answer that they come up with always is, well, we can love people with our heart. So love is very much connected with our heart, and we will again see and experience and understand a bit more what type of love we're referring to. And when we talk about our heart, what exactly do we mean with our heart, our spiritual heart, more concretely? Love, defined by, again, ISSE-SE, the founder of this program, he says that love is not an emotion. Love is an energy. And when we think about this term emotion, we also spoke about it the other day. Emotions they can be positive, they can be negative. When we feel an emotion of joy, and when we feel, if something pleases us, then of course it can create positive emotions. But it's also true that sometimes, and I'm sure we have all had this experience, that sometimes our emotions can also make us go through not very pleasant moments, and they can somehow bring us down as human beings as well, and make us feel uncomfortable with ourselves when we feel anger, when we feel jealousy. So how can love be just an emotion if love, I'm sure we will all agree, love is something that can only be beneficial. It can only bring positivity to our lives. So it cannot be just an emotion, because if it were just an emotion, it would again be faced with all these ups and downs of life. And love is something beyond this. So Satisai defines love as an energy. And if we think about the concept of energy, even defined by science, energy is something that is not created, that is not destroyed, and it is just constantly transformed. I think this is a beautiful thought, because at least for me, it's been very, again, inspiring to think about it this way, to think about love as something that's always been there, that will always be there. It's just our very natural characteristic, and it's just transformed, and it transforms us all the time. So in this sense, love is an energy. It has no beginning, no end, and we will see this a bit more in depth as we move along today's presentation. Love is also our very natural characteristic of every human being. We asked ourselves this question at the start, the question about what is our true nature? What are these features, these qualities, these inherent qualities that define us as human beings? Well, the answer is here. It is love and all the other human values that are our very natural characteristics. It is the thing that defines us as human beings. So love is our very essence. We come from love, and everything, you know, and I'm sure we all experience this as well. If we ask ourselves once again this question, when do we feel truly comfortable with ourselves? When do we truly feel in tune with ourselves? Talking about tuning our head, heart, and hands like we saw the other day. We feel in harmony, we feel in tune when we express love, when we speak love, and we will see a bit more in detail how this love can be manifested in many different ways. But when we practice love in our lives, the result is only serenity, and it brings joy to our hearts as well. So let us again keep diving deeper within this, deeper within ourselves, but also towards this understanding of this value of love. I'm not sure if this might have happened to some of you, but for me in life, many times as a student, for example, I didn't really know what I wanted to study, or I didn't really know certain things that when we have to make decisions, or you know, yes, when we have to decide, when we have to even something so simple as you know, who to spend your life with and things, all these decisions. Sometimes I know that I haven't really known what I want to do or what way I need to go, but it's been very clear for me to see what I shouldn't do, or what I know will not bring joy to my heart. So in this sense, for me, it's also been very inspiring in a humble way to understand, okay, love is this deep concept, this deep experience, and how can I really understand it even better? So for me, it's been very helpful, like with these layers, to also understand what love is not, or what I should not be confusing love with. And as we can see on the slide with this image, we have this beautiful teddy bear, which brings a lot of like sweetness, at least when I see this image. But he's also a bit confused, like you can see, or you know, with this this darker slide. I feel that it somehow represents what we're going to be talking about, because again, what is love? What are we really talking about when we refer to love? And as we can see on the slide, love. Sometimes we confuse love as an emotion, as a desire, even in our closest relationships with our family members, with our friends, with our colleagues, anybody we have a relationship with in the world. If we think about it, we use this concept so much, and we say, I love this person. And what do we mean when we talk about love? Why is love not just an emotion, or why should we not confuse love to be an emotion, a desire? What can be the consequences? And again, this is from our own experience. I'm sure we can all relate to this. When love is just a desire or an emotion, it can cause joy or sorrow. For example, I love watching football, and sometimes if I watch and the team I support wins, then it creates in that moment a very temporary moment of like yay and joy. But if the team loses, then there's again this temporary sadness or sorrow or disappointment. So when there's a desire for something to happen, when there's an expectation, love it as an emotion, it can cause both. It can cause joy or sorrow. It can also have expectations, and lots of expectations. I think, again, this is something very beautiful to observe because, for example, I live with my husband, and sometimes I always think about this, like, in this process of self-inquiry, self-observation, I have noticed in some occasions that, I say I love him, of course, and sometimes then I realize, I have felt disappointed about something. And then when I dive deep within and try to understand where this disappointment comes from, I realize that it has a lot to do with my own expectations, my own, it can be somehow demanding as well. So when love, sometimes without we realizing it, it turns into attachment, or it turns into an expectation, again, it can, like with this teddy bear, it can bring us joy, sorrow, and ups and downs. And sometimes, love as understood as just an attachment, as a desire, as an emotion, it can cause immense stress. Because when we feel that our desires have not been fulfilled, we feel upset, we get stressed, and sometimes one desire takes us to another desire as well. So it's very important for us to see how love, when we observe it, again, it's not a matter of judging ourselves, but it has really helped me that when I see, like this passing cloud, when I see that expectation turn up, at home, or even sometimes in a work relationship or with a friend, I just talk to myself and say, oh, Raksha, can you see that? Can you see that expectation? And then somehow it helps me to tune in again and say, okay, is this really based on love then? And I know that my pure intention is that love, that energy of love, but it's just a matter, once again, of allowing this passing cloud to move away. So after talking about all of this and talking about what is love and what love is not, in the sense what we should not confuse the term love with, it will be very inspiring to go into the characteristics of love. And for this part, I will complement it with some anecdotes at school and how the children themselves teach me how they fully understand. Children are beautiful, and I'm sure all of us who have the chance to work with children, or to those of you who have your own children, from a very young age, they show us this wisdom, this inner knowledge that lies within each one of us. So what are the characteristics of love? How can we observe and become more aware of this quality of love within each and every one of us? One of the quotes that Satyasai uses to help us understand one of the qualities of love is, he says that love has no beginning nor end. It exists in all the categories of time, in the past, in the present, and future. This is the kind of love that can fill man with lasting happiness. So again, we're talking about something that has always been there, that is here right now, and that will always be there. Love does not change. It's changeless. It's eternal. And when we talk more about, the other human values too, we will see that there's another human value that has this very same definition, actually. And Satyasai uses the same quote to define another human value as well, which we will see as we move along the course. But again, this something that permeates all moments. And we were talking about this the other day when we spoke about human values, when we said that they are everlasting, that they don't change. Is there anything in a human being that does not change? Our mind, our thoughts change all the time. Our physical body changes. Is there anything that is everlasting that does not change? Well, this energy of love, one of its characteristics is that it is eternal and changeless. And to bring this as a more like practical experience at school, this was with year 2, so 6-year-old children, more or less, a few years ago, when in the class in science, we were doing the water cycle. And like we saw the other day, you know, every lesson, every subject is a beautiful opportunity to somehow, you know, integrate human values within every subject as well. And when we were doing the water cycle, as you can see, you know, we created this beautiful mural. We went through all the scientific part of what evaporation is, what condensation is, and what precipitation is. And we spoke about the 3 different states of water as well. So we actually, you know, we did an experiment. Remember, I also shared with you 2 weeks ago about when the cube of ice and all of that. So related to things like this, what we did is we actually took some water and we put it in a bottle of water, just in its liquid form. And then what we did is we froze it so that the children could see, you know, how it turned into ice, and then how again it turned back into the liquid. But we spoke about this water cycle too, and they saw that, you know, every particle of water, it hasn't really been created or destroyed. It's just transformed throughout in this whole cycle. So they themselves, and I said, is there anything also within us? Is there something that we are constantly sharing that might be changing its shape and form, the way we express it, but is there something that's in constant movement among all of us? And they were like, yes, Ms. Raksha, of course, the you know, love, you know, we're always loving each other. And we keep sharing it with one another. And sometimes you share it with one person, sometimes with another, but it's always there, it's always available. So we somehow linked that into what we were doing. And then when we did this experiment, just for them to see how, you know, related to the states of matter as well, it was very special because we actually, like I said, we took the water and we turned it into ice. And as you can see in this very special image, this beautiful boy, Kevin, I didn't notice, but he looked at me, you know, when we did the experiment and we went to get the bottle, he looked at me and he said, but Ms. Raksha, I understand everything you've explained and but there's one thing I really don't understand. How did you get the heart in there? What did you do? How did you manage to get the heart in there? And I looked at him and I didn't really understand. I was like, I'm a bit confused. What are you asking, Kevin? And another little girl, Selma, she saw it and she was like, yes, Mr. Raksha, look. And so they put it against the, you know, just against the sun so that we could see it more clearly. And as you can appreciate in the image, there is like a heart inside this this cube of ice, let's put it that way, this piece of ice. And I was like, you know, speechless. I didn't know what to say. So he was like, how did you manage to do that? And I myself was astonished. So I looked and I was like, and Selma herself, she answered and she said, oh, well, Kevin, that's very simple. And he was like, what's the answer? And she was like, well, we're talking about love. We're loving children. We're sharing love. So, I mean, it's absolutely normal. This is why the heart was manifested, because, you know, just this is how it happens, because we're talking about love, we're sharing love. So there you go. This is just a sign that, yes, we are talking about love, we're sharing love, and this is very natural. So I love the way how she just found it so natural that the heart was manifested in there. So again, we've seen how love, again, like this water cycle too, it's this energy that keeps transforming itself and transforming us at the same time. Another characteristic of love is that love is unconditional. We have this beautiful image of the tree, which we also saw 2 weeks ago. And as we can see, you know, the tree, it offers its shade to everyone, to anyone. It does not discriminate whether it likes us more or less. The same with its fruit. Another beautiful example of this is the sun. As we saw, the sun shares its light with everyone, with every living being, without discrimination. It is unconditional in that sense. And when we talk about love as being unconditional, of course, we have to decide sometimes in life, in the way we act, whether we need to, keep distance sometimes in a certain relationship, or it does not mean that, we just have to give everything and accept being treated in a wrong way or something like that. But I think here we're talking more about our feelings, our inner, what resides in our heart. In that sense, love is fully unconditional. It's available. It's always available. And in this sense, we can also see that love lives by giving and forgiving, while ego, or this individual self, lives by getting and forgetting. When we love, there is no room for resentment. And this links once again to what I was saying before. I have experienced in my own life that sometimes I have had to maybe step back in a relationship, whether at work, whether personal, in any friendship. And many times it's been that I've also had this feeling of resentment in my heart. And when that's happened, I knew something was not falling into place. I knew this was not true love. This was not pure love. But sometimes when it's just, okay, in my heart, I have no negative feeling or no feeling of resentment towards a situation, towards a person, but we need to take a step back, then it creates harmony in my life too. I'm just sharing this because I feel even with children, they ask me these questions, the secondary students especially, sometimes they say, well, does that mean that we just have to always give, even if someone treats us badly and we shouldn't? And I was like, it really depends. I'm sure you will find the answer within, but I truly feel we're referring more to our inner feeling, our inner, yes, what resides in our heart. Do we have any resentment? And this observation of ourselves, which is so important in every moment. And like this beautiful image of a river, we know that when water, does not flow, it can actually end up even, causing an unpleasant smell, and it's not very nice. So in this sense, I feel it's the same with us. When we hold on to resentment, it is very difficult for us to really feel this fragrance of love as well. And one really important thing, and I'm going to share a very special story for me here, is I think I mentioned this to you also. We have a project which is called the Values Island, where the children discover a different value every month, and it's like a treasure that we discover within. And I remember once it was the month of December, so we actually had discovered respect, and we also discovered the value of gratitude. So both these treasure chests should have been open. And one day I walked into class and both the treasure chests were closed again. So when I spoke to I was an English teacher in this other school I worked at when this beautiful anecdote happened. And I remember that, when I walked in, it was with these 4- and 5-year-old children. A little boy, Diego, he held me by the hand and he said, Miss Raksha, he took me all the way to the Human Values Island. And he said, Miss Raksha, they have taken away the value of love. And sorry, we were talking about love, of course. He said, they've taken away the value of respect and the value of gratitude from us. They have taken it away from us. And I looked at him and he was like, yes, look, they're closed. And the teacher, she walked out and she was like, there was not a lot of respect and gratitude in the class at this moment. So Miss Raksha, I closed it. And he was so worried, Diego. He was like, Miss Raksha, they've taken it away from us. What can we do? And again, before I could even answer, a beautiful student, Angela, she just stood up immediately and she said, oh, Diego, they have not taken anything away from us. Look at where the treasure chests are. They're absolutely in the same place. Can you not see them? No one's taken them away from us. The only thing is that they are not shining. All we have to do is make them shine again. So don't worry. And she was like, it's not like we have them, we don't have them. They're always there. It's always available. Love is always available. Human values are always available. The sun is always there, she said, like Ms. Raksha always tells us. So the only thing we have to do is practice them again. And I share this story because I feel it's helped me a lot in my understanding with myself actually as well, because many times this feeling of resentment, or this feeling of not letting go, not forgiving, is not so much maybe with others. Sometimes it's with our own selves. Sometimes we find it hard to forgive ourselves, or to let go of something that we don't think we've done correctly, or it might have been even something that happened many years ago, and sometimes we find it very hard to forgive ourselves. And this story truly just reminds me, you know, awareness and the fact that, yes, they're always available. It's just my duty, my responsibility, my commitment to make them shine. But nothing's gone. It's always there. It's always available. So in that sense, love is always available. Human values are always available. Another beautiful characteristic of this value of love is that love, like Mother Teresa says, I'm just going to move this so I can see the slide, sorry. Yes, so she says, if you judge people, you will not have time to love them. Love is non-judgmental. And when we talk about judgment, again, judgment not in our criteria, not in our discrimination within what is right, what is wrong, what should I do, what is correct, what is the right thing to do in this situation, but judgment in the sense when it creates distance from heart to heart. This is the way that it helps me understand the concept of judgment. When I have a thought of judgment towards someone, or when I feel this judgment, I notice a distance between this heart-to-heart relationship. So again, if we have judgment in us, and if we judge people, it really does take away time to love them. So this is a very beautiful thought, and another very important characteristic of love too. This is something very important as well, to understand love and discipline. I know sometimes we're not very fond of this word discipline, and myself, you know, when especially teenagers, they don't like this word very much. Sometimes, you know, we want our freedom, and I remember my age as well when I was a teenager, and this concept of discipline. But I've truly understood that discipline is actually something so necessary and so beautiful. And one thing that really helped me visualize and understand this concept of discipline as well is a very beautiful metaphor that an educator from Spain, José Luis San Pedro, he once spoke about the importance of freedom, and he compared it to a kite. He said that freedom is like a kite, because, you know, for this kite to fly, it actually does need that thin thread, the string. I'm not an expert flying kites, my dad is, and I remember that, you know, he would explain to me when he spoke about his days in Calcutta and when he would fly kites, and how he needed to, you know, the importance of really having a good control of this string so that the kite can really fly high. Without that string, the kite would not fly. It's not, you know, I'm saying this as well because many times in education, when talking about love, when talking about the upbringing of children at home, at school, sometimes we also talk about, and George mentioned this as well the other day, everything is valid. If we love someone, well, everything is okay. Let everything come out. But what about that filter? What about this thread to help us really reach the highest heights of ourselves, like this kite? What is it? What is that thread, that string that truly helps us? Well, I have discovered that in my own life, it is discipline. And discipline as creating a habit when one feels these negative emotions, to not feed them more, to not just, okay, I'm feeling anger, let it flow, and to like feed it even more, nourish it even more. You know, one negative thought takes to another one. I've learned in life how to stop, pause, and truly ask myself, is this really making me feel happy? Is this really making me feel good with myself? Am I comfortable with who I understand I truly am? And when the answer is no, and I know that these emotions, this habit, this act, this thought is not helping me in this direction, for me, this is what I understand as discipline. It is that that time and the patience with oneself. And the more we practice something, the more we create a habit, the more we will get better at it. It's just like playing an instrument or anything else. So love is very important, that it goes hand in hand with discipline, both in the educational context at school and even at home. I can recall my own parents as being very loving, but very disciplined. I remember I once told my mom, I was like, you don't give me any freedom, because my friends were allowed to come home a bit later than myself. And she was like, and she stopped me and she actually told me, she said, Raksha, have I ever told you the way you need to think, the way you need to feel? And I was like, no, Mom, you have not. So she said, well, that is true freedom. She said, everything else, I'm your parent, and you know, that the other things are just part of discipline. And when you grow up, you will understand. But I will never tell you what you need to think and how you need to feel. That is something that you need to, you know, discover yourself. And but I have to fulfill my role as a mother. And if once you know, until you stay with me, there are certain rules in this house, there are certain guidelines, which I feel are so necessary for you to grow into a good human being. So discipline is very, very important. And this brings us to this beautiful slide here, and coming towards like an end of today's presentation as well, where we can see this beautiful bird. And as you can see, it has two wings. One of the wings is love. The other wing is serve. So we can think about this as selfless service. And if we ask ourselves this question, what does this bird need to do to fly high, to reach the heights of its true self? I would put it this way, to reach the heights of its true self. What does this bird need to do? As we can see, it has some heavy sacks that it needs to get rid of: egoism, anger, hate, greed, jealousy, attachment. And it is not a matter of denying when we feel that, but sometimes when we come across these emotions, when we observe them, talking about this discipline of really self-inquiring and see, where does this stem from? What is it actually doing to me? Shall I keep nourishing this feeling, this thought? In that moment, it's so important to observe and realize that when we feel this ego, this anger, this hate, jealousy, and all of these things, it actually pulls us down like this bird, and it stops us from flying high and reaching the heights of our true self. But even let's imagine that we let go of all these heavy sacks and we have these two beautiful wings of love and serve. I would like to invite you all to introspect and think about what you think happens to a bird that flies with only one of its wings. Do you have any idea? You can think about it. What happens to a bird that tries to fly with only one of its wings? Well, actually, what happens to a bird that tries to fly, for a little while at least, with one of its wings, is that it ends up turning around itself. It ends up turning in circles around itself. And when we don't understand love as this elevated love, as this noble love, this pure love with its characteristics that are non-judgmental, unconditional, everlasting, changeless, when we don't understand love as this, and it's just this more selfish love related to emotions, to desires, to attachment, without realizing, we end up, turning around ourselves. But also, if we feel this love and we don't share it with others, we don't put it, service is love in action, ISSE-SE says. So if we don't serve with love, if we serve just to, if we help someone, if we serve, if our true motive is fame or recognition or an expectation to receive a certain reward, well, in that sense, we also end up turning in circles around our own individual ego. So in this case, to fly high, to reach the highest heights of our true self, we must love all and serve all, and really take care of letting go of any kind of negative emotion or feeling that can, again, block us from reaching our true self. And when we talk about love, it's such an absolute value. It's such a beautiful, thinking about love. And sometimes it's so ample. It's this majesty of love that when working with children, especially, but even with ourselves, to understand this value, it's easier to do it through the practical aspects of love. So some practical aspects of love are respect, gratitude, generosity, compassion, friendship, devotion, dedication, goodness, patience, forgiveness, sharing, sacrifice, understood as sacred offering, that's its true meaning, sacred offering, solidarity, and empathy. All of these are practical aspects of the value of love. And when we practice one of these, when we are compassionate, when we feel empathy, we are feeling love as well. So these are we could say, like, if love is the trunk of the tree, it expresses itself as these different branches and leaves of all of these aspects of love, which help us understand this value even more. And I'd just like to come to an end of this part of the presentation with a few quotations that I feel are so inspiring. One of them, again, from the founder of the program, ISSE-SE, says that every being needs love, inhales and exhales love, as love is the very basic breath. Every being is an embodiment of love. Love knows no fear. Love needs no falsehood to rest upon. Love seeks no reward. Love is its own reward. That is its only joy, the joy of loving and being loved. And when we talk about love, when we talk about this love stemming from our heart, what are we talking about? Again, when we spoke about emotions, sometimes we confuse this love, this heart with our emotions. And ISSE-SE invites us to understand that where the source of this love resides, in our spiritual heart. And through this beautiful quotation, he actually defines what we understand as our spiritual heart. He says, true education is that which originates from the heart. You should rely more on your spiritual heart than on the physical heart. Conscience is another name for spiritual heart. Keep your heart pure. This should be your main endeavor. Whatever is done with love and purity of heart will confer bliss on you. So ISSE-SE defines our spiritual heart as our conscience, as this inner knowledge that is universal and that resides within each and every one of us. This is the true source of wisdom on which we must rely. And just because children are always so dear to my heart, I wanted to just end showing you a few images of how this love manifests in the classroom when we talk about other values as well, like peace. One of the activities we did once was I just asked the children, I played some beautiful background music, with nature, and I just put some paint, different color paint on each table, and I asked them to just draw the value of peace. I said, what does peace look like? And I asked the children to just feel what they wanted to express and to just draw. And the question was, what does peace look like? So this beautiful girl, Carlota, she drew this amazing piece of art, I would say. And then I asked them to accompany it with a sentence so that it would express, like artists, like heartists, I would say, what they truly felt and what this picture, this painting represented for them. So Carlota drew this amazing, beautiful picture, and she wrote, peace looks like a loving tree with raindrops of love everywhere. We also had Colin, who drew this beautiful heart, and like the ripple effect, like we saw the other day, like this that expands, the human values that keep expanding. He said, peace looks like a heart that spreads love to everyone. And this is one of my favorite anecdotes always to share. I remember one year I had to teach not just, because the main teacher had left. So due to personal reasons. So that year I had to teach the children math, science, which was actually very beautiful because this is when I could teach, you know, not just human values through the subject of human values, but actually integrated in all the different subjects when I was their form teacher as well. And I remember I was teaching the children the times table, the 2 and the 10s times table. And I told them when they finished their work and everything, it was a math lesson. I gave them a whiteboard and I said, you can do your own, you know, calculations and you can practice once you finish the work in the book. So Gustav was very quiet and doing his stuff. He was so concentrated. And he came up to me, like he had the board, he didn't show me yet. And he was like, Miss Raksha, I need to show you something very important that you forgot to teach us when you started teaching us the timetable. And I was like, oh, did I forget something important? He's like, you forgot the most important times table in the world. And I was like, oh, did I? He said, yes, you started with the 2 and 10, but Miss Raksha, you forgot the most important one. And I said, maybe I can learn that one from you. Can you show me? And then he turned his board and he said, look, it's the love times table. He said, if you share your love with one person is happy. If you share it with 2 hearts are happy. And then he kept going on and he said, Miss Raksha, the next time you teach the timetables, please remember to share the most important times table in the world. So when he said that, you know, just thinking about it brings a lot of joy to my heart because he was so excited to share this with me. It was such a discovery, and he was so surprised that, you know, his teacher did not talk about this first. And I was like, Gustav, you have taught me a great lesson today. And I promise that every time I teach the timetables from now on, I will start with the most important one indeed. And just again, this is the last slide for today, for this part. Gratitude. We saw that one of the main aspects of love, one of its practical aspects is gratitude. This was also very special because this little girl, Martina, at the end of the school year, her mother wanted to buy a present for the teachers, like many times they do in schools, in primary schools, especially in kindergarten and primary, it happens a lot. So she was like, but I don't want to buy Miss Raksha anything because, you know, she will appreciate something more but I really want to just, you know, I want to give her something that I truly feel grateful for. So her mother told me, and then she gave it to me too, that, you know, because she didn't want to buy anything for me, she wanted to draw this and express her true gratitude. And she said, because the thing I am most grateful for is the values island. So this is what I want to thank Ms. Raksha for. And she said, and the most important thing, she didn't really give us the values island. It's there for each one of us to discover. She only reminded us that we have it in there. So this is what I'm really thankful for. You know, like, I know it's always there within me, and I just need to make these treasures shine. So it was so special. And our life is like this journey. It's like this path. You know, it has its ups and downs. It's sometimes it's easier, sometimes we come across some obstacles, sometimes it's smoother. But in this path, what is it that truly, truly matters? And I will end with this lovely quotation that says, at the end of your life, when you look back in time, it will not matter if you were the most famous person or the least known, a scholar or an ignorant, the richest person or a homeless. None of this will be important. The only thing that will truly matter is how much love you shared with the entire creation in every moment of your life. The love and the happiness that you share will be your only everlasting possessions. If you develop love, you will not need to develop anything else. Therefore, love all and serve all. So talking about love and developing it, I just want to share a little song that we sing in the class with the children for us to truly dare to dive deep within ourselves to bring out these human values. So I invite you to just join through the screen as well. And it goes like this. Values in you, values in me. Values are here, values are there and everywhere. There's friendship, love and sharing, Kindness, peace, and caring, it's all a matter of daring to find them in your heart. There's friendship, love, and sharing. Kindness, peace, and caring, it's all a matter of daring to find them in your heart. Values in you, values in me. Values are here, values are there, and everywhere. So thank you very much. And I'm going to hand it over to Elena again so that she can tell us what comes next. Thank you very much for your empathetic, heart-to-heart listening. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Raksha. Thank you, as always, wonderful presentation and the wonderful inspiration of your practical knowledge in the classroom. It's so beautiful to realize that all these values are inside of the children of ourselves all the time. So we have to find them and put them into practice with a good example, of course. So now we are going to have these 10 minutes of questions and answers. If you have any questions, you could write them in the chat box now, and then we are going I'm going to read them for Raksha, and so she can give us her feedback on the feelings that you have to ask about. So we're going to use the chat box now for the questions, right? Okay. After this part, in the second part, we're going to have a workshop with Verica Sekulic, Opacit. And then in this workshop, we are going to find the answer more to the question that was expressed here. That is, how can we experience the love energy instead of the emotional energy? So I think that we're going to go through that in the workshop.